So it's about 2:50 in the morning right now, and you know, this isn't my normal style of content. I make guitar covers, really just music related content in general. And music is really my big passion, so I don't like to do a lot of like just talking at the mic and stuff like that. Not something I feel especially confident in all the time, but this is something that's really important to me, and I was sitting up thinking about it for a while. I was thinking of writing up a little script, but really I just kind of want to riff off the top of my head here, do something with some more minimal editing, just really talk from the heart here. So this is gonna sound pedantic, but and you've probably heard this about a million times, but read a book. That's something that's getting lost on our society and on our culture, is being able to read. Like I don't just mean like whether or not you like to read, but like basic level literacy. Over here on my computer, I just have pulled up some statistics. According to the National Literacy Institute, 21% of adults in the US are illiterate. 54% of adults have a literacy below a 6th grade reading level. 6th grade. So, and that's a number that's continued to rise in recent years. I know teachers currently. Teachers are saying that the kids can't read. Almost 40% of school-age children cannot read at the level that they need to be. And that's something that's kind of scary. When we start as a society to lose the ability to read and to comprehend what we read, we lose history. And, without history, we can't learn from our mistakes. We can't learn about the good parts of our past. We can't learn, arguably as importantly, about the bad parts of our past. We can't learn why we are the way we are, and that's something that's concerning. When we can't learn basic things about ourselves, we start to lose who we are. So, moving from just the general, this is stuff you've probably heard before, but it's good for people to know why this is important, right? But I just want to talk a little bit more about benefits to reading and just the ways that I think reading is beneficial to a society. And I get it. Lots of people don't like to read. I was really in that camp for a long time. Went through middle school, went through high school. There was a long period of time when I just couldn't get into it. You get books forced in you and reading literature classes and English classes, and it's hard there. It really is, because not every book is going to be for everybody, obviously. It's very hard to get books that everyone's going to like. And bad teachers don't help with that either. But it was really my sophomore and junior year English teacher who showed me kind of the right way on this. And it was, funnily enough, it wasn't even while I was still in her class. It was in the year after my senior year of high school, where I really learned to love to read again. I remember after school one day we were having a conversation, and I brought up to her that, I liked reading certain books, but most of the time I just wasn't really a reader. And she said, well, why do you think that is? And I honestly couldn't come up with an explanation for her. And she said, well, maybe try reading different things, or try reading in a different context. She said, try reading in a context of not necessarily how is this enjoyable, what does this do for me, but try and apply it to a context that makes sense to you. So for me, a lot of that was real history and social issues and things going on in the world. That got me into nonfiction for a little while. I have this book right here. It's a great biography about the creation of John Coltrane's A Love Supreme, which is an excellent album, by the way, one of the best jazz albums of all time. And, this really got me back into reading, in essence, because I got this book for Christmas, and I was kind of thinking about what my English teacher said, and, she was really right. It just takes finding the right thing or applying it differently to your life For me, jazz. Jazz is a big part of my life. Playing jazz is a big part of my life. I've been playing jazz guitar for about 3.5 years now, and I love it. Coltrane is one of my favorite artists. So getting something like this, just basic nonfiction, which isn't for everybody, but this is as basic as it gets. This is just someone telling an accurate account of events that happen. This is the most basic form of writing, but that's all it takes, genuinely. This is better than nothing by an innumerable sum of times. If you can get into just reading accounts of something that's interesting to you, you service yourself so much. Not only do you get a new perspective on something that you find interesting or know about, but you get different perspectives from real people, and you really just train your brain for a variety of different things. You are, statistically, generally, the smarter you are, the more you read, the smarter you are. Beyond that, it comes down to a real matter of learning to love littler things in life and learning to really have an attention span. We live in an era where attention span is just so small. It's just insane. We're spoon-fed and constantly force-fed ultra short form, ultra targeted content that is specific to you to make you feel good and keep the dopamine going. But that's not what we need. And I'm guilty of it too. I'll open up Instagram and I'll spend an hour on my reels, and I'll look back and I'll be like, what the hell am I doing? Well, it's fun, it's entertaining. I laugh a lot. Sometimes it's a social activity. I'll send reels to my friends send reels to me. But at the end of the day, I look back at that and I go, what the hell am I doing? But never once have I finished reading something and been like, what the hell am I doing? That was a waste of time. Sometimes I'll think, well, that sucked, I wasn't into that. But I never have that same kind of regret, and it's not that same fast dopamine, but there's substance there. There's something more. Another thing my English teacher used to say, it's like chicken nuggets and Sprite versus, like a real good steak and potatoes and red wine. It's, chicken nuggets and Sprite are great, and you can eat them a lot and you feel good. But if you eat chicken nuggets and Sprite every day, you're gonna be crapping your guts out, and it's gonna suck. Compared to a real good, well-cooked, hearty, full meal, that might not be as good. That might not taste as good. It might take longer to eat it. But at the end of the day, that's gonna be way better for you. You're gonna get through that meal and you're gonna go, I feel great. I just had a good, healthy, hearty meal. As opposed to your chicken nuggets where you're done and you're like, those were great, but I'm still hungry. That's kind of how I see this. Even taking it out of the personal perspective. It doesn't have to be fiction, nonfiction, anything specific. I was just using the example of nonfiction there, but fiction too. You take, and I'll have it handy right here. I just finished rereading Death of a Salesman, which is one of my favorite plays of all time. I love Arthur Miller. There's a great movie adaptation of Death of a Salesman if that would interest you more, but I highly recommend you read it. There's stuff that in plays, I didn't used to be this way. I used to think, well, you just gotta watch it, that's how it was intended, but I think there's some stuff that gets lost when you're not reading a play sometimes, some little details. You can see things differently, and even between books and movies that share largely the same script. Recently, for school actually, I read No Country for Old Men, and No Country for Old Men, I don't love the writing style, but it was a great book, and it's a movie that I had seen before that, and there's parts in the book that sort of just get lost in the movie adaptation, and the Coen brothers made a great movie out of it. But specifically, there's a scene when Sugar is talking to Wells after Wells first encounters Moss, and they're talking, and it's the scene right before Sugar brutally murders Wells. And in the movie, that's disturbing, right? They have this discussion, and it's really disturbing. But in the book, it's just another kind of horrifying to have to read that. And there's some sort of different psychological connection there between seeing the words on the page and having to process it at that speed or something like that. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know the deep inner workings of how all that works, but I know there's something different there. That's not just a me thing either. I've talked to other people who have read the book and seen the movie, and they kind of share some of those experiences with me. So I think reading also just gives you a different perspective on, other works you may like as movies or as plays. Plays aren't as big anymore, but specifically on movies. And again, even with things that share largely the same script, No Country for Old Men, the movie, a lot of those lines, I'd say almost 75%, are one-to-one book to movie, including that scene there. Almost all of the lines there are one-to-one. It's the same thing. It's brilliant acting. But there's a difference there. There's a real different kind of connection that's made while you're reading versus when you're not. So I bring this all back together just to say that I think if you don't like reading, you should find something and give it a chance. Back onto attention spans. Part of what's important about reading is because you have an algorithm targeted at you nowadays. Reading's not like that. You walk into a bookstore and you find something that looks like you might like, but you have to put the thought into what you might like, and you might not like it. And that's okay, because that's how real life is. Real life is not things being spoon-fed and shoveled to you that you like. Real life sucks sometimes. Sometimes you get into something in life and it's not great. But that's okay, because you have to get through the stuff that you don't like or find a way around it in order to get to the stuff that you do. I think reading is really helpful in that way, because it's good to read what you like, but it's good to get into something and say, this isn't for me, because you can hone your taste more, and it teaches you to be patient. Sometimes you get into a book like this one right here. This is what I'm reading right now. Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man. Another recommendation from my excellent English teacher. This is a book that, frankly, for the first 50 to 70 pages has been drop dead boring, but as I get into it more, it's great, and it really teaches you to be patient, because when someone tells you this book is great, it's awesome, you get through a couple chapters and you're like, this freaking sucks, this is miserable, this is boring, what the hell are you giving this to me for? That teaches you really have to be patient to get into that. And sometimes you get through the whole thing and the whole thing sucks, and that's like, well, what the hell? But even then, I think of that as less of a waste of time and more of a test of my patience and my ability to get through that stuff that might not be as fun. So bringing everything back together, I think reading is invaluable. There's obvious practical applications, and it is really concerning, of people that can't read and comprehend. But outside of that, I think reading just has special ways of applying to everyone's life that other forms of media don't, as I've explained before. And the attention span aspect of it is really kind of what I like to focus on. So it trains your brain in a way, and it doesn't have to be a lot. Like, start with 5, 10, 15 minutes a day of reading. Find a book, any book. If you don't want to buy something and spend some money, find an ebook online. I like, hardback books more, but if you don't want to spend the money, then don't. Find a PDF of something. It can be anything. If you're religious, get, whatever your religious text is. If you're not religious, something else. If you like philosophy, it really doesn't matter. Find something and read it. Hell, it could even be like a magazine or something. Open up a magazine, read some articles. Find a book that your mom has. Find an old book that you hadn't read already. Find a book that you bought and didn't read. If you want to spend a couple bucks, Half Price Books is a great store. Books are cheap when they're secondhand. This book was $3. It's in good shape. There's no annotations in it. No nothing. A couple dollars you'll spend, or no dollars you'll spend, and that 5-10 minutes a day is invaluable to your life and an invaluable contribution to society. And you may say, well, I'm one person, what does it matter? But, if everybody shares that attitude, nothing will ever get done. What it takes is for you to go, I don't read, let's change that. And that's your contribution right there. You're doing something. everybody doesn't have to do this all at once. But if you see this and you go, I should read a book, that's excellent. That's the point of this. And you should tell everybody else to try and read a book too. I think that's just the point of it. So, you know, if you want your 3 key takeaways from this, reading ain't so bad. If you don't like it, give it a try. Second off, tell other people that reading ain't so bad and to give it a try. And third off, it does not have to be a time commitment. Just pick something and read it. 5 minutes a day. That's all I ask of you. It's 5 minutes a day. You know, try that for a month. If after a month you really don't like it and you think you're getting nothing out of the reading, then quit, you know, and I was wrong. But I think after that, even if you don't necessarily love it, it'll be something that you realize has some value in your life. And that's kind of the point. So I'm going to quit my rambling because, again, it is past 3 in the morning now. And I don't know if I'll make more videos like this. Probably not. This is just kind of an impromptu thing. If you found me because you're subscribed to this channel, then thanks for sticking around this long. And if you found me because I sent the link to this video to you or something like that, thanks for sticking through this. If this is your first time finding me, I normally make music content, mostly guitar covers of metal songs, a little bit of percussion stuff. I'll be training as a classical percussionist this coming fall. So if that's any of that stuff that interests you, throw me a subscribe, throw a like on this video, throw a comment with some suggestions and what you think of this kind of content. Other than that, thank you very much for sticking around and listening to me ramble. I'll see you in the next one, I guess.